everybody. Keith Engle here with the TGI Sports Talk Major League Baseball update. Right here live on TGI Sports Talk. Let's talk sports. Catch us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Today and later today, you can catch this show at any time. Got a little problem, I think, with my feed. Let me check a couple things here quick, guys. I want to make sure this sucker's off. Oh, all right. Anyway, how are we doing, gentlemen, ladies? Let me make sure this doesn't start up again. Been a hectic week already today. Feels like today. Lots going on in the world of TGI Sports Talk. My wife's birthday today. I wish my lovely wife a happy birthday. Jane, love you. Still busy waiting for the closing on our new townhouse and trying to get this place ready to sell. So if I'm not on this show, I'm either working my real job 55 hours a week or cleaning this place out and up, getting it ready to sell because we need a lot of money to pay off the new house. Anyway, life is fun. Happy Mother's Day weekend, everybody out there as well. Take care of your mom. She deserves your attention, not just this weekend, but every weekend. I miss my mom, and I wish she was still here to be able to say Happy Mother's Day, but I'll say it to her in heaven. So, Major League Baseball. I'm doing my best to keep up with the world of sports, guys. It's very, very hard at the moment, but we're doing our best. Take a quick look last night at a few of the scores, okay? And we'll start there, and then we'll get into we'll go around the league a little bit like we always do. And look at the weekend, the series that are coming up, and we'll take your topics and your comments and questions. We'll go from there. Last night's games, not pretty for the Yankees again, I can tell you. 8-2, they lose. Rasmussen gets his fourth win. Herman doesn't pitch well last night. Josh Lowe gets 5 RBIs. Yankees lose 8-2. The Mets continue their bad baseball. They lose 5-0 last night to the not very good Reds. Senga barely gets out of the first inning. Padres lose to the Twins on a Carlos Carrera 2-run double. Carrera been struggling, getting booed. He said he'd be booing himself as well if he could. White Sox lose again, one of the most disappointing teams in baseball at 13-26. They lose to the lowly Royals on a Freddie Fermin bunt in the ninth after he'd already fouled off a couple. So 2-strike bunt gets the winning run in. Scott Barlow gets the win in this game. The Giants beat the Diamondbacks 6-2. The Diamondbacks reeling a little bit. Still one of the better surprises in the league, but they lose last night to the Giants. And the Rangers continuing to play some good baseball, but they played the lowly A's. They win 4-0. Evaldi strikes out a career-high 12. So that's last night's scores. Let's kind of look around the league a little bit, and we'll get into some of the news as well around baseball. So feel free, as I said, to comment, put up a topic. We'll talk about anything that you want to talk about. Looking around the league, as we do every Friday when I'm on. We'll miss some time, guys, when we're during this moving situation as well. For fact, our literal move will likely happen on June 30th. Assuming everything comes together. Anyway, the American League East. The Rays, 7-3 in the last 10, continue to play some great baseball, 30-9. Guys, this is the best start that I can remember. And maybe I'm getting old, so I may have forgotten better starts, but this may be the best start that I've seen since the Tigers in 84 got off 35-5. Tremendous start, 769 baseball, 19-3 at home, 121 run differential. I've gone through their schedule several times. They've been beaten up on some of the lower tiered teams, if you will. But wins are wins, and you got to play these teams. And you have to win the games. So the Rays are playing some great baseball. They find ways to to continue to put quality teams on the field and not pay out big money. I mean, one of the first guys they've extended for a long time was Wander Franco, who got hurt last night, by the way. I think he hurt his neck. We'll talk more about that. Got hurt in the Yankee game last night. We'll see what the latest is on that. The Orioles, the team hanging the closest to the Rays, is the Orioles at 24-13, 6-4 in their last 10. They won 2 in a row. Listen, since the Orioles, and I've been saying it's about a year ago, maybe a little bit less than that, when the Orioles, they'd been off to a horrible start last year, started playing good baseball, and they played consistent baseball for nearly a year now. This team is for real. And we'll talk about the teams that are for real and whether their surprising starts, whether good or bad, will continue. We'll continue to have those conversations and see who, I don't know why that's bleeding through there. I think it's a TV behind my green screen. The Red Sox are a surprise. 8-2 in their last 10. There's 22-16. Ahead of both the Jays and the Yankees. Listen, I picked the Red Sox to finish last year. Good start. I don't think it'll continue. I don't think they have enough pitching. I'm not sure their lineup is deep enough. We'll see. The Blue Jays 21-16, the Yankees 21-18, 8 and 9 games back respectively. Blue Jays have now lost 2 in a row, 3-7 in their last 10. Yankees playing a little better, 6-4. They got healthy on the A's earlier this week, but still a lot of problems in Yankee land. But with the wild cards, and listen, I'm not a huge fan of 3 wild cards. I'm just not. Because there's no reason for teams, and maybe they shouldn't be panicking, and maybe it's okay that there's 3 wild cards, but I'm not a huge fan of it. No reason for teams like the Yankees or the Blue Jays to be panicking, even though they're 8 or 9 games out of first place here in the second week in May. Yankees 21-18. The black hole in left field is still there. The pitching, still trouble. Questions whether Rondon's going to pitch at all this year. There were rumors in New York this week that hit social media that he would not pitch at all, and his wife tweeted out that it was all BS, so we'll see. Listen, I was not happy about this signing. I said that. I keep meaning to get back to a couple people that really were giving me a hard time in some chat rooms, but I'm not an I told you so kind of guy. If they bring it back up to me, I'll make sure. I did tell you that this would happen. But when I'm right, I'm right. And when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll tell you when I'm wrong. I wish Carlos Rondon was pitching and was 6-0 right now. I don't wish him bad. All the talk about the Yankees having the best rotation in baseball, well, that was premised on them getting guys on the field. There's also talk that Luis Severino's unhappy, just like he was last fall near the end of the season. If you remember, he got hurt, and the Yankees held him back in September, and he was ready to pitch, and he wanted to pitch, and the Yankees held him back further. And he says now he's ready to pitch. So we'll see what happens there. The AL Central is just a mess. The Twins holding fourth at first place at 21-17, 5-5 in their last 10. The Tigers in second place. Can't remember. We had a Tiger fan in the room last week. I can't remember who it was. Either it might have been Friday. It might have been the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. I don't remember. But they're in second place still. I think they were in second when we had this conversation last week. 2 games under 500. 7-3 in their last 10, though. AJ Hinch's done a good job here. This is a young team. And this division could be there for a Tigers team to maybe make a surprise because nobody seems to want to run away here. Now it's early and somebody's going to get on a hot streak. The Guardians aren't playing good baseball, 4-6 in their last 10. Maybe they'll get it together. A lot of young talent there. But the White Sox, one of the biggest disappointments in baseball at 13-26. The Royals, not a good baseball team whatsoever at 12-27. Them and the A's, and somebody's going to threaten the 120 game record for losses in a season. Now they are 5-5 in their last 10, and some of this is better than the NL Central when we get there. A surprise that might stick around, and I'll look at this a little deeper in a second. The Rangers still in first place, 3.5 games ahead of the also surprising Angels in my mind. 23-14, 7-3 in their last 10. And Alan Perales, I wish you were here, buddy. You got to get on this show because this is where, you'll hear me mostly apologizing here if I'm wrong. This is one of the surprises that I think could have some staying power, but I still am worried about a couple of things. I'm worried about the consistent hitting of some of their players on offense, getting on base. So far, it's been okay. But the pitching, I worry about more than anything. Evaldi's pitched well. DeGrom's hurt, as we know. Martin Perez has pitched pretty well. But Gray's going to get hurt. I think it's going to matter how they replace these guys that get hurt. DeGrom, Gray. It's inevitable. The Angels, as I said, 3.5 games behind them at 20-18. They've lost a couple in a row, 6-4 in their last 10. The Astros, excuse me, the Astros trying to get back in this. They will get Altuve back soon. Altuve is going to get a rehab assignment here soon. We'll check in on what the latest is on his expected return. And that will certainly help this team. I got into it, and we'll have this conversation several times, I'm sure, as he heads back. But I had a conversation in one of the groups I belong to. One of the topics always, we post a picture and your first thoughts of whoever we're talking about. The day's topic happened to be your first thoughts when you think of Jose Altuve. Obviously, there's a lot of cheater comments, a lot of snarky comments. Listen, I suppose it's warranted, but again, that scandal is way blown out of proportion. My comment was a simple first ballot, HOF, which got about 5 chuckles. I got some nice remarks, and I got into it. Some guys telling me that he should be banned for life for cheating. Banned for life. We didn't even ban steroid abusers for life, and they were real cheaters, by the way. People have been trying to steal signs for 150 years. Did they take it to another level? Yes, but you're not going to ban these guys for life. They didn't throw games. They were trying to win games. And I just think the whole thing is overrated. And they're Yankee fans. They're angry Yankee fans. I'm a Yankee fan. I preface my remarks with I'm a Yankee fan. The whole thing was a hugely blown out of proportion issue. Yankees wouldn't have won that series if they cheated or didn't cheat. And I'm sorry, I don't even like the word, but I'll use your word. They didn't score any runs, so stealing signs didn't keep you from scoring any runs. So Yankee fans, you got to stop. And Brian Cashman, shut up. You lost that series because you don't know how to put a baseball team together, and you shouldn't even be still the general manager of the team that you are. Anyway, Seattle 18-19, trying to fight back after a really, really bad start. I like the Astros and the Seattle in this division 1-2. We'll see whether that happens. They're 7-3 in their last 10. And the A's 8-31. 2-8 in their last 10, another 5-game losing streak on their way to Vegas. This team is one of the worst teams in the history of baseball. And they'll prove it by the end of the year. 40 games in. This math should be easy. That's 32 wins, guys, in 160 games. I'll give you 2 straight wins after the 160. You finish with 34 wins and 128 losses. That would be a record by a lot. The record of 120 still stands by the 62 Mets. Bad baseball, man. And I'm sorry, I'm not sure who to blame. I was on with Mac and Jack this morning, and a Philly sports guy thought the A's owner did not deserve, the plum spot of Vegas to bring this team to because of the way he's run this organization. And listen, recent history, I don't necessarily disagree with Jamie, but you look back, the fans, and again, I understand they've been playing for decades. Well, decades, 60 years, 50 plus years anyway, in an antiquated football stadium. I get that. But the fans have never supported this team. When they had championship teams in the 70s, 3 straight, and great teams in the 80s and early 90s, fans did not come out, not during the regular season. Playoff time, they came out. Regular season, they'd be drawing 4,000 or 5,000 people in the 70s with a first-place team. You got to support your team if you don't want to lose them. So please don't cry me a river for Oakland. Now, if you want to say that the current owner, who's not done a great job of running this organization, I am playing with tape, yes, doesn't deserve the plum location of Vegas, well, that's a different story. But A's fans, I'm sorry, you got nobody to blame but yourself. In the National League, the Braves, with the best record in the National League at 25-12, 7-3 in their last 10, playing really good baseball. This whole division is a little out of sorts. The Marlins have won 2 in a row again. They have only 4-6 in their last 10. They had fallen a couple games under 500. They're back to 500 and playing some pretty good baseball. Surprisingly enough, still lots of pitching with the Marlins, but not scoring a lot of runs. Whether they'll be able to contend, deep into the summer for a wild card spot still remains to be seen. The Phillies won 3 in a row, back to within a game of 500. They've had some starts and stops. Very flawed team. The Mets, a very flawed team. 3-7 in their last 10. Lost yesterday badly. The pitching is not good. Blander did pitch well his last time out. Scherzer's hurt, so you got 2 guys who add up to about 80 years old and $80 million in salary. And the worry is that they're not going to be able to pitch any more than, say, DeGrom. And, of course, the Nationals at 16-21. Scott Kobe in the house. What do you got here, Scotty? What do I think of this whole Cardinal mess? Listen, the signing of Contreras without knowing, we knew. Listen, I had this conversation with the Mad New Yorker all the time. He does not believe leadership means anything. I think it's a huge factor in any winning team. Leadership on the field, leadership in the clubhouse. And the Cardinals lost a lot of leadership in Yadier Molina. He's a great game caller. They went from one of the best game callers to one of the worst in Contreras, and they knew what they were getting before they signed him to this big 5-year contract. And 5 weeks into the season, he's the scapegoat here. You should have known what you were getting. And by the way, Yadier Molina, one of the best game callers, but also a leader on the field and in the clubhouse. Albert Pujols as well. This team is showing a serious lack of leadership on the field. And guys like Goldschmidt and Arrieta have to pick it up. This team could still come back. I think this is a little similar, I guess, to the Philly situation, although I don't think they were quite this bad early in the year, last year. But this is not a strong division either. The Pirates are coming back to earth rather quickly, 1-9 in their last 10. As bad as this team is, they're only 8 games out of first place. The Yankees are 3 games over 500. This team's 12 games under. They're both, and this team's closer to first place. So, I also think the Astros will sweep the White Sox this weekend, which will start putting pressure on the other teams in the West to win. I keep, and I've expected it now for a few weeks, and they've had a couple of starts, Scott, the Astros, I mean, and haven't really got it going. What I say their record was, or game over, I think, right? Yeah, game over 500, only 4 games back. And I think you're right. They could sweep the White Sox this weekend, and they've got Altuve coming back soon. We'll get into that story in a bit. He's going to start a rehab assignment here soon, and that's going to mean a lot. You talk about leadership. There's a huge leadership piece that's missing from this Astro team. And this Astro team to be 19-18 without Altuve, with Abreu, last I looked, didn't have a home run. Maybe he's hit one in the last 2 days I don't know about. And you could see teams, by the way, starting to make moves early. I was reading an article in the Athletic. I think it was by, the old GM of the Nationals. I can't think of his name now. Jim, and it was with the Reds at one point. Jim Bowden, maybe. The talk amongst GMs, not to expect anything before Memorial Day, but they did expect to see trades and triggers pulled quicker. But they didn't expect the Cardinals to fold up. They don't expect the Giants to fold up. They're not even sure the White Sox will fold up and sell. If I'm the White Sox, I'm folding up and selling. But the problem is that division, again, is so weak, just like the Cardinals. Both central divisions, you could come back from this deficit easily. I mean, as bad as they are, the Cardinals are 8 back, and the White Sox are 8.5. Better than the Yankees. Yeah, you're right. Leadership. And again, teams that have no leaders on the field are rudderless. I have this conversation all the time. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about football or basketball or baseball, hockey. You need strong leadership. And in certain sports, it needs to be in certain positions. Catcher is an important place to have somebody who shows leadership traits. Shortstops, they don't 100% of the time. I mean, you can have leaders elsewhere. Donnie Baseball was a leader of the Yankees when he played, a quiet leader, playing first base. But, you think about Yadier Molina, he was the heart and soul of his team for, close to 2 decades. They missed that. Nobody has stepped in to fill that void. White Sox aren't coming back, and they haven't shown anything this year. They just lost a series to the Royals. I definitely agree, Scott. This team is lost its way. I think they should have blown it up after last season. They blew it up a little bit, letting Abreu go. But the kids, Anderson, who's hurt again, Robert, these kids just are not making the leap to the next level. They don't know how to win. And again, leadership. Where's the leadership on this team? Tim Anderson ought to be a leader on this team. He's on the disabled list more than he is on the field. Great player. And I thought the White Sox should have blown it up last year. Not just blow up the manager, but they should have blown this team up. We're talking about the NL Central. The Pirates still in first place by a half game now over the Brewers. Nobody's playing well here. In their last 10, 4-6 is the best record of anybody by the Cubs and the Reds. The Pirates are playing dismal baseball since their hot start. They're only 4 games over 500 now, 1-9 in their last 10. The Brewers 2-8 in their last 10, but they've made up ground on first place. Cubs are going nowhere. Reds are going nowhere. That's why the Cardinals still have some life. Not sure if you agree with me there, Scott, but anybody who thinks, Jimenez is the next, no. How about any of these guys, Scott? All these guys on the White Sox, Jimenez, Robert, Anderson. I feel like I'm missing somebody. They've all been talked up as, the next great thing, the next superstar. All of them are lacking something. And again, I think one of the reasons is they don't have somebody to take them under the wing and show them how to be a Major League Baseball player and reach that next level. That's where leadership comes into play. I think you've seen it with the Cardinal. We'll go back to the Cardinal example again. Scott. You know, the outfield that was so tremendous last year with O'Neill and Carson. Can't think of the kid's name now. Carson. They got some talent in that organization, but they've got nobody to lead them. I don't know how, and maybe Ariendo and maybe Goldschmidt just aren't those guys who can step up and lead the way they need to be led. I mean, you had some guys that played really good baseball last year, and Tyler O'Neill, Carlson. They got a young guy in Newt Bear. Edmund. Kisner. All these guys played well at different times last year. Well, Kisner's the catcher now, excuse me. But all these guys played well and within themselves last year. And this year, all of them have regressed. What do you got here, Scotty? Your hot take in the Cardinals will find a way to make it to the playoffs this year, which means they got to win the division. Absolutely. I don't think there's any way they're going to find themselves to a wild card with this start. I mean, you're going to get 3 wild cards, right? And probably the Dodgers and Padres, one of them is going to get one. You would think the Phillies or the Mets would rebound for the second one. Third one, I don't know. I guess the third one could potentially come from the Central and the Brewers or the Cardinals. But again, long way to go from 12 games under to winning this division or a wild card. So it'll be very tough. Yeah, Dylan Carlson. He played very well last year and just not having the same impact this year. O'Neill's had some trouble with the manager, and he's on the IL, I think, now. Don't call it a DL because you'll get in trouble. Watch Geese head explode. Diamondbacks could be the third. I was going to mention that. I picked them to finish just out of wild card range before the season, Scott. I had them winning in the low 80s. And next year really make a jump because I think this team is going to be a really good team. Maybe they'll be a year ahead of where I think they are, but they've been a bit inconsistent, which you would expect out of a young team like they are. They've lost 3 in a row now. 3 games behind the Dodgers. Playoffs started today, which they don't. They would be a wild card team. I like the makeup of this Diamondback team. Their outfield is loaded. And there's some good players all around the field, some good young pitchers. I like the way they've built this team. Guys with defensive prowess, guys who put the ball in play. They got speed. And I like the way they put this team together. Dodgers playing better baseball recently, 8-2 in their last 10, 23-15, taking control of the division with a 3-game lead over the Diamondbacks. The Padres still struggling early. That whole chemistry thing, their pitching is not as good as it looked on paper. They could be looking to, pick up some of the guys who will go on the trade market today. I was reading about somebody. I'm trying to remember who I was reading about this morning. If I look at the teams, maybe it'll prompt me. Might have been this kid from. I don't want to speak to it. We'll probably come across it when I look at some of the news stories. But a lot of talk about, the Padres, I would think, will be very, very active at the trade deadline or before. Again, a lot of talk that there'll be a lot of early moves. Probably not before Memorial Day, is that teams like to wait until Memorial Day to see what they really have. But I think if teams start to move early, you may not be able to sit back and wait. Zach Gallen is a stud. He's a stud. Like this kid, I watched his progression very closely the last few years, and he's really become a top-notch major league pitcher. He's really good. He is the real thing. I agree. I absolutely agree. And stay free from injuries there, Zach, because you got a great career ahead of you. And, hey, I got an idea for you, Diamondbacks. Let him pitch. As I said to Aaron Boone several times. Put the book away with the analytics and let your pitchers pitch. It's time to start stretching pitchers out and let the guys you pay the most money pitch the most important part of games. So frustrating, right? Let's see what else is going on around Major League Baseball. Let's get into some of the news and notes around Major League Baseball. I talked about Wander Franco hurt his neck. And Scott, any topics you want to jump into, please don't hesitate. Scott says going 7. Yeah, right. I mean, I still don't understand it. These guys think they're protecting pitchers by babying them all through their development in the minor leagues, pitch counts from the time they start pitching. They think they're protecting their investments, and what they're actually doing is hurting them. I mean, why do you think pitchers pitched 300 innings years ago and 25 or 30 complete games a year and pitched for 15 or 20 years? Because they pitched every day. They threw every day. These guys don't throw every day. They don't pitch a lot in games. They get to 80, 90 pitches. They're looking to the dugout for somebody to get them. So by protecting them, they're actually hurting them. Because when they do get to a big spot in a game where you're starting to pitch under more duress, which is worse, right? Again, 120 pitches. If you throw 120 pitches and never get into a tough spot, that's a lot less taxing than throwing 90 and you've had to get in and out of jams all night long. Too much emphasis put on pitch counts and not the situations that pitchers are pitching in. And again, you know what it comes from? Looking at a script and all the analytics, look at a script on a piece of paper and your analytics and not paying attention to the game that's unfolding in front of you. Gosh, I'm so sick of it. Wander Franco left Thursday's game, Ray's shortstop, with a tightness and spasms on the right side of his neck. He exited after hitting a single in the 5th inning. No further word that I'm aware of. Correa answered the boos, and Carlos Correa, to his credit, said, look, I'd boo me too. He hasn't played well. He had a 2-run double last night in the 7th to help the Twins beat the Padres. Kyle Farmer also homered in this game. Carlos Correa, I like guys who stand up and say, and don't get on fans for booing them. If you don't play well, you should expect to get booed. Carlos Correa says that. Guys are so thin-skinned today. If you don't play well, you'll get booed. How do I think James Paxton is going to do tonight in his first game in over 2 years? Oh, gosh. He's left-handed, so he gets another chance, right? This guy was never good enough in my mind, ever. If he wasn't left-handed, he'd been out of baseball, 4 years ago. Wasn't good with the Yankees. Never went deep in games with the Yankees. I know that. He hasn't pitched. Yeah, he'd be lucky to throw 50 pitches tonight. I don't even know. Who's he pitching for, by the way? I don't even know who he's pitching for. Where's my schedule? Don't I have a schedule up here? I had one. You'll probably have it up before I find him, Scott. Oh, excuse me. It's funny. I don't see him starting tonight. Oh, James Paxton for Boston. Oh, nice. Good luck. This is why I'm saying the Red Sox will not stay. They're one of the surprises that will not continue to play well. Exhibit A. James Paxton is starting tonight. Not enough pitching. Red Sox, thank you. Against the Cardinals. You know what? Big series. This is where the Cardinals can start to get it going. They can get 2 out of 3 this weekend. Hey, who knows? Adam Wainwright pitching for the Cardinals. By the way, James Paxton starting for the Red Sox. I said it's evidence of what the Red Sox problem is and why they won't stay on the pace that they're on. It's also Exhibit A of why Rob Manfred needs to stop talking about expanding. We don't need 2 more teams. The dearth of starting pitchers and pitchers in general in a Major League Baseball is absolutely scary. No bullpen is deep. No starting rotation. Maybe the Braves, there's a couple that are okay. But as a whole, you look at the 4th and 5th starters, even the 3rd starters on a lot of teams, there's not enough to go around. You don't need 2 more teams. If in my mind, you should contract teams. Stop moving the A's and the Rays. You know, the Rays talking about playing half their games in Montreal. They're 30-9 and they don't draw. You don't deserve the team, Tampa Bay. Now, there's some cities that deserve baseball, but we don't need 2 more teams. Nashville deserves a shot. Portland maybe deserves a shot. Vegas is getting the A's. But let's take these teams that aren't being supported. And again, I understand. We talked about this, I think, on this show, right, Scott? Maybe I'm wrong. We were talking about the worst venues in baseball. And the Rays and the A's have 2 of the worst. And I'll give the fans a benefit of the doubt just a little bit there. But get out and support your team or you're going to lose them. Because if you don't support the team can't afford to build you a new stadium, and you've got to stop relying on taxpayer money to build new stadiums. James Paxton can't be the number 1 starter for Nashville. He couldn't be. He shouldn't be the number 5 starter for Nashville, Scott. Agree with you 100%, buddy. Oh, in expansion, I got you. He could be the number 5 starter. I don't know if Nashville's got a minor league team now. He couldn't start there either. So, Rob Manfred, let's stop this, nonsensical talk about expansion again. 2 more teams. Again, contraction would be a better way to go. We did talk about venues. I thought so. And again, I'm trying to give guys a benefit of the doubt, but, guys, you got to support your team or they're going to get taken away from you. Tigers, as I said, in 2nd place, Tigers president Scott Harris said the positive way Javier Baez has responded to being removed from a game last month has helped contribute to the team's improved play since. If you remember, he did not he lost track of how many outs there were, ran into a double play, and A.J. Hinch had enough. And by the way, Baez has not played well since then. He's batting .321 now. I'm sorry, not since then, but overall for the Tigers, he's not played well. He's played well since this benching, and so has the team. So, sometimes you get tough with a guy, and he responds, and the team responds. There's a story about Paxton to make his belated Bo Sox debut Friday after 2-year Major League Baseball absence. This guy was never that good. Am I missing something? Let me look at James Paxton's numbers. I feel like I'm missing something. Was he ever that good? His best year, he's 12-5, pitched 136 innings. He did strike out 156 in those. And the year after, he went 11-6. He struck out 208 and 100. So that's not bad. So he had some good years. Maybe be a little harsh on James Paxton, but again, the James Paxton I watched for the Yankees was not any good. First year, he did go 15-6. Maybe I'm being too hard on the guy. I don't know. Big games, I just didn't see it in James Paxton. He isn't the kind of guy that he doesn't have the presence on the mound where I think, oh gosh, we're not going to win tonight. If I'm playing against him, he doesn't scare me. I don't understand what's going on with the Cleveland. They're an underperforming offense. Good point, Scott. Let's take a quick look at the Indians, shall we? They just sent Gonzalez to the minor leagues last week as part of that problem that they have offensively. Let's take a look at their numbers overall. Offensively, they're hitting 221. 267 on base percentage. 297 on base percentage. That's god awful. This is what I got on the Rangers about. And Alan Perales last year, why this team was not a good team. You can't have an on base percentage around 300 and think you're going to be any good. Their OPS overall is 621. That's horrible. Ramirez has probably had the best year so far. 4 homers, 20 RBIs, 270. Josh Bell, their big free agent pickup, not playing well, 219 he's hitting. Rosario, who played well last year, 234. Jimenez, who played well last year, 214. Miles Straw, 229. Josh Naylor, one of their big prospects at first base, 191 with 3 home runs. They've only hit 19 home runs as a team. Everybody's regressed. This is a good young team, and this happens sometimes. I will say there are young teams that take a leap forward and then the next year sometimes take a step back because they still don't know how to consistently win. They did it the year before, but they don't know what they did, if that makes any sense. And sometimes they take a step back that second year. They do have some good leadership on this team in Jose Ramirez, who's one of my favorite players in the American League that doesn't play for my team. God, would I like to see his name penciled in at third base for the Yankees every night. I think that'd be awesome. But as I said, Gonzalez got sent to the minors after hitting 1 homer and hitting 192. Not much going on good in Cleveland right now. What are the pitchers doing? The pitchers haven't pitched bad. 3.72 ERA, 1.25 WHIP. Shane Bieber, 2.61, but he's 3-1. He's got, a quarter of their wins. Quantrell's pitched okay. Battlefield hasn't. Zach Plesac hasn't. The back of the rotation's been a little iffy for the Indians as well. So, again, a lot of problems. Now, the good news is that division is so weak, Scott, that they can come back easily, I think. But you can't go on forever this way. You've got to start, piecing together some winning streaks here at some point. See what other news we got going on here we can talk about. Scott, you feel free to throw out anything. Oops. Corey Seager has begun his rehab stint. Began it yesterday. Ian Kennedy, former Yankee pitcher, who has had a decent career, bouncing around the league, the Nationals, the Diamondbacks, Dodgers, some other teams. He's been DFA'd. The Marlins have promoted their top pitching prospect. That's what they need is more pitchers. Yuri Perez for his major league debut. Marlins are a surprising team. Let's take a quick look at the Marlins, guys, and let's just see what they're. Is there any reason to think the Marlins can continue to play? I mean, they're only 500. I'm not saying they're playing great baseball, but in this watered down version of the National League, I think there's a possibility this team can continue to play well if they can score enough runs. Jazz Chisholm not hitting much, 221, 5 homers, 14 RBIs. He does have 13 stolen bases, but a 282 on-base percentage, not good enough. He's learning a new position, could be playing into it a little bit. Solar, who they picked up, 235 and 9 homers. I mean, that's what you can expect out of him. Arraez, he's hitting 398, showing that his batting title last year was not a fluke, potentially. But he doesn't hit for a lot of power. He's only got 7 extra base hits all year. De La Cruz, 265 with a couple homers. John Birthday, who's really a quick guy who can play a lot of positions, playing mostly shortstop for this team. He's hitting 265 with 6 stolen bases. Juan Segura, 186, one of the older, more experienced guys on the team. I don't know why I'm so far left here. I got to figure out what's going on here. Garrett Cooper, 272 with 3 homers. Yuri Gurriel, one of their big pickups. I mean, listen, he's not playing badly, considering the way he played with the Astros last year. I thought he was done. He's hitting 256 with 5 homers. Is there enough offense on this team to carry what is a very, very good pitching staff? I'm not so sure. But we'll see. It'll be fun to watch these guys play. The pitching staff has been really good. Alcantara has been their worst pitcher. And he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Luzardo's pitched well. Cabrera hasn't pitched that great. Who else has started for them? Trevor Rogers, who I thought would be a big comeback story this year. He struggled a little bit, but I think he'll still get it together. It's a 4 ERA, 122 whip. So I think he'll do it. And we'll see what Lopez can do tonight in his debut. So an interesting situation to deal with in Miami. Scott thinks Miami can finish second. Well, if the if the Mets and the Phillies continue to play as bad a baseball as they're playing right now, all bets are off, right? So we'll see what happens there. What else is going on? Continue to look down the news here. Freaking mouse doesn't work right either. I can't wait till we get moved. I get my new desk set up. Power rankings, we won't look into that too much. We don't have time. I'll tell you who's at the top of the ESPN power rankings. Obviously, the Rays at the top. The Braves are second. Dodgers third. Blue Jays, interesting, are fourth. This was earlier in the week, though, remember? So they've lost a couple since then. The Rangers fifth. Astros sixth, even with at 19 and 18. I might move the Orioles up this ranking a little bit the way they're playing. One of the teams I think will continue to play well. Pitching, again, so many teams, if the pitching holds up, they'll play well and hold on to their surprise status. Padres at 8, a bit of a reach right now. Yankees at 9, probably a bit of a reach. I mean, for now, you ought to give these teams that are playing well, like the Red Sox, a bit of an advantage there, I think. Let's see. Anything going on here as I check some more news? Tyler Mahle for the Twins. Well, he'll need Tommy John surgery. That will not help them. He's an innings eater. You know, one of the is that really even a good thing? I mean, if you have an innings eater who isn't any good, it's never been a phrase that I thought was tremendously complimentary of a guy, because it's usually applied to a guy who's got an ERA in the mid 4s, but he goes out there every 5th day and pitches. He's got a new land deal. Mets and Phillies to play two London games in 24. We know about Max Scherzer being hurt this week and missing a start. Braves placed Max Fried on the IL. And again, I have to tell you, and Max Scherzer probably doesn't even fit the mold of this problem I have about pitching. Let the pitchers pitch. You keep protecting. You think you're protecting their arms. You think you're protecting your investment. Pitchers need to throw. Go back and look in history. And I know I'm an old guy, and I'm the old guy saying, get off my lawn. No, I'm not available, Jim Miller. My gosh. Does the show I'm available? Work, guys. They just won't leave me alone. No, I'm not available. I'm bitching about Major League Baseball and the way we treat pitchers. Stop babying them. Let them pitch. There's a reason why guys pitched for 15 seasons, 18 seasons, 20 seasons, through 25 plus complete games, 300 innings a year, because their arms were like rubber, because they threw every day. As the money got bigger, we took more precautions with pitchers, and all we did was hurt them. I'm trying to understand why my head is so white and shiny. I'm also obviously got the ADD going today. Luzardo's a really good pitcher, by the way. Really good. I like him a lot. By the way, Gary Sanchez signed with the Mets this week. Got off to a decent start with their AAA team. Will we see Gary in I was going to say Shea. I don't think so. Maybe. I guess maybe. Are we going to see him be a contributor to this team in any revival they might have? No. I think if this team needs to turn to Gary Sanchez, because their off-season acquisition Navarro or Alvarez can't take over the full-time duties, it's going to mean the Yankees are in big trouble. And Sanchez is already washed out with the Yankees, the Twins, the Giants. He was hitting 164 in AAA Sacramento before he got released by the Giants. It's over, Gary. It's over. Let's look at the series this weekend, guys, real quick. Scott, anybody else that's with us, you can certainly put some comments up if you've got them. I want to look real quick at the schedule this weekend before we wrap it up for the day. Friday and all weekend, we've got Miami playing Cincinnati at home. Good chance. And Yuri Perez is, I said Lopez earlier, sorry. Yuri Perez getting his debut against Graham Ashcroft tonight. For Seattle against Detroit, interesting series there. Marco Gonzalez against Matthew Boyd. The Mets are at the Nationals. Time to get healthy, Mets. Tyler McGill against Mackenzie Gore. The Ice Cold Pirates against Baltimore. A video against Kyle Bradish. Tampa Bay and New York. Again, a big series for the Yankees. Lost last night. Cannot afford. They've got to win these games at home. Garrett Cole going tonight against Trevor Kelly. Atlanta and Toronto, an interesting May series. Spencer Strider against Chris Bassett. The Angels will visit the stumbling Indians, as we talked about. Tyler Anderson. Tyler Anderson against Logan Allen. St. Louis and Boston, as Scott brought up earlier, Adam Wainwright against James Paxton. Man, these two guys, I think, both graduated just a few years behind me in high school. Am I wearing that line out? I think it's a good line. Am I wearing it out? Scott, you probably heard me say that a bunch of times. Chicago. I'm one who thinks a good line never gets worn out, but my wife doesn't think so. The Cubbies will play the Twins. Drew Smyly. Another example of why don't expand. Drew Smyly's still a starter in the major leagues against Sonny Gray. Houston against the Sox. Got talked about Houston sweeping them this week. JP France against Kopish. I think this is France's second start for the Astros. Kansas City at Milwaukee. Josh Taylor against Corbin Burns. Love Corbin Burns. And the pitching staff in Milwaukee is the reason I think they'll still win that Central. Philadelphia at Colorado. Tawan Walker against Austin Gomber. San Francisco at Arizona. Interesting series there. A couple young guys. John Bravia against Ryan Nelson. Texas at the A's. I know Ken Wadlachuk now because Scott introduced me to him a couple of weeks ago. Martin Perez is pitching for the Rangers in this game. And another series for the Dodgers and the Padres. I think it's time for the Padres to show something this weekend. They got Blake Snell against Dustin May this weekend. No way. Is that about me not wearing out my my signature put down of old guys? I just like to do it. Thanks for being with me today, guys. I had a lot of fun today, as always. Make sure you tune in. You can watch this. If you're watching this later, make sure you please get out and like and follow TGI Sports Talk and Let's Talk Sports. Lots of content on TGI Sports Talk and even more on Let's Talk Sports. You can catch me again this weekend. You'll catch me at 5 o'clock with Dan Harris with our Let's Talk New York Sports show, and you'll catch me Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time with our Sunday Stream of Consciousness, where we have my favorite show, one of my favorite shows of the week, maybe my favorite show of the week. I like doing the show with Dan, don't get me wrong. But my show with where my audience is just, the participation is off the charts, and I love Sunday mornings. And we'll probably have Jim Beringer on live Sunday to talk some NHL hockey. And we'll certainly be looking at the world of baseball, the NFL, the NBA, everything. Where would the Padres be without Bogarts? And Bogarts has played well. A good signing. But again, I said before the season, I think the chemistry there is going to be the issue. There's certainly talent. The pitching has got enough talent, right? So, it's a matter of whether these guys and these egos, Bogarts, Soto, Tatis, and Manny, can all get along. Somebody's got to step up and lead this team, because I'm not sure you can have 4 leaders. They're all alpha dogs. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Rich Hill is a number 2 starter, is insane. I've been talking about Rich Hill. He was one of the first guys I talked about graduating a year behind me in high school. And Rich Hill being a number 2 starter with the Pirates is the reason the Pirates will not be a serious contender this year. Mark Mancini from Mancini Media, I'm very sorry to say that, but it is what it is. Scott, thanks for participating so much here today and making this time go by. Guys, I'll be back next week with this Major League Baseball update, and you'll catch all the other shows I talked about. By the way, if you haven't caught, you'll catch it tonight, 6 o'clock, a day late, my interview with Delvin Williams, former All-Pro running back with the 49ers and the Dolphins. You got to watch this. We talk about his career, but the last half hour, we talk about how the NFL, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, throws its players under the bus and leaves them pretty much helpless when their career is over. And we're talking about guys who didn't make, $500 million during their career like they are today. That might be a little high, but whatever, $250 million. Watch the interview. It's an important story, and everybody needs to pay attention to it. Guys, I'll talk to you next week. Keith Engle for TGI Sports Talk, MLB update. Have a great Friday night. I'll see you at 5 with Dan Harris. Bye.